Hello, everyone. I'm going to just pull up my Bible app and we're going to get started. Okay, so hello. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy Monday. It is 12 noon here in Delaware, in the state of Delaware. It is 12 noon Eastern time, and super, super excited. This Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is our monthly community accountability call. And so we have women that have already registered for that. So if you are a part of that, be sure to stay on the lookout for your link. You should have already gotten it when you registered via Zoom. And if not, you can go to genesisdorsey.com, scroll to the bottom, and you can register for the free accountability call that's coming up. This is a pop-up, so I am not focused on numbers today because, again, it's a pop-up. I didn't even announce it, but I am focused on making sure that I put out something for the week. And so if you're watching the replay, hello to everybody. We're streaming on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And today we're going to be talking about how to build up people with your voice. If you are new to my platform, my name is Genesis Dorsey, and I focus on teaching women, primarily women, but I do have a male audience, but primarily women, teaching them how to unleash their voice in three specific areas that they have gifts in. And those gifts are for speaking, writing, and teaching. And if you hear any loud noise in the back, I am at the church as well as summer camp. So you may hear kids screaming in the background in another part of the building. But we focus on speaking, writing, and teaching. And this is, again, is for people, for women specifically, again, who are gifted in those areas, right? And so this is not just, if you just have words to say, right? This is where God has called you specifically in speaking, writing, and teaching. And there are differences in those things, right? There's a difference between speaking and teaching. There's a difference between writing and teaching. And they can cross, but they are definitely individual gifts. And today I want to focus on speaking because it really actually is going to end up being a merge of all three, actually, speaking, writing, and teaching, that I'm talking about today. Because what we're going to be focusing on is something that I teach within Speak Women Speak, as well as just with all of the women that follow me, who inbox me when it comes to their writing gifts, their speaking gifts, their teaching gifts, and making sure that you are speaking from a positive place. This is very important because there's a lot of platforms where it's very condemnational teaching. What I mean by condemnational, which we're going to cover, I do not mean that you're not supposed to speak truth, but it's where you are deconstructing people with no place for them to go next, right? So you're telling them all these things they cannot do, that they are doing wrong, right? And there's nothing wrong with correcting, but remember, we are builders of people. So even when you are taking out the rough parts of people, the hard parts of people, you still have to lead them to a positive destination. No one wants to go backwards. Everyone wants to go forwards. Even if they do not have all the key elements in place, everyone wants to move forward. But as a leader, as a voice, it is very imperative to how you share your voice that either builds people up, or it keeps them where they are, or it sends people back to where they came from. And your voice actually has a part to play in that. So I want to share three strategies that I really believe are going to help. And again, I'm just going to pray and just keep on going. But I want to give you three strategies that I think are going to, I'll just give you like this. These three strategies are going to help you, period. When it comes in your speaking, your writing, and your teaching, your books, I'm going to cover a few things that honestly, they apply to everything. Because when you are building people, when your focus is people, not yourself, but when your focus is people, how you share your voice is different than other people. Okay, so let's go over these three elements, then I'm going to break down how they apply. So again, today we're talking about three ways to build people, right? Again, remember, you are a builder. The first is that your job is to lead people to a positive destination. Okay, your voice is supposed to lead people to a positive destination. The key word, though, in that phrase, though, is destination. And I teach on this a lot when we talk about it from a business sense, when you're building your platform, right? But what I mean by this is when you are teaching, when you are speaking, when you are writing, where are the people supposed to go in the end? right? Many times when people are, let's say, you're doing a keynote, let's say, you're getting booked to speak, right? One of the questions that I always ask God before I am writing, whether it's a teaching, a preach, whatever it may be, is, God, where do you want them to be by the end of this experience? Where do you want them to be? Not where do I want them to be, but where do you want them to be? And what should they have walked away from? Or what's the powerful teaching that you want them to leave with? Where are the key points that need to be cemented into their heart, right? And that's a very interesting point, because when people write books, I've read books and there was no clear destination, right? They tell me that, you read the book, they talk about their memoir, they share their testimony, right? And it's beautiful. But did you write this for people? Or was this a memoir that God told you to write for yourself, for you to keep that book to yourself, right? But when you say that you're called to people, then your focus should be for them, right? So if I'm writing a book and people say, oh, I wrote this book for you. And I said, oh, well, you wrote this for people, you wrote this for women. Okay, well, if you wrote it for people, where are you looking to take them? So when I pick up your book and you're talking all about yourself, okay, but you don't flip the script to how they can learn from your story, how they can draw from your lessons, right? And you're just talking the whole thing about yourself. But what about the people? So this goes back to where you have to lead people to a destination. By the time they finish that book, what should they have learned for themselves, right? Yes, they would have learned your story if you're writing it that way, but it's more important to have a dash of your story and more of how it's going to benefit them, how their lives are going to be changed. This is so key. Many people, again, we don't have these kind of conversations. And so, hey, how are you? So because of this, right, people are building platforms unto themselves. People are building books unto themselves. People are speaking to themselves. But when you speak as a builder of people, you're more focused on, when I get on a stage, when I am on a live, when I'm writing a book, when I'm doing a teaching, when I'm teaching a group, I am focused on, where will this end? What is the destination? Where are we trying to go? Okay? Because once I know the destination, then I know exactly what needs to happen to get them there, right? That's going to help you to build a better book. That's going to help you to speak a better speech. That's going to help you to talk a better keynote. That's going to help you do all those things, because again, you're more focused on the destination, where they're going in the end. Right? And that is so important. And this is why I've seen some people not get booked for higher level types of speaking opportunities, because when you get onto, I see some people get booked because their friends have the conferences or something like that. It's a little different. But as you get to higher levels, people don't want to hear you tear them down for like 30, 45 minutes. You're telling them, well, this is why people aren't reaching their potential. You don't need to be doing this, and you don't need to be doing that. And you won't reach your level if you don't do this. People don't want to hear that for 30 minutes. People don't want to hear that for 45 minutes. And see, a lot of that stuff, it floats in the church. So people are so used to in the church, but you can't do that in corporate. You can't do that with your corporate speaking gigs. You cannot do that when you go and you're your area of expertise and they book you for these trainings. No one wants to hear you tearing them down for 45 minutes straight and you feel good about yourself because you feel like, oh yeah, I gave him the truth. Well, truth and condemnation are two different things. Right? So let's go to point number 2 with that point. Number 2, we correct, but we don't condemn. There's a difference between correcting and setting someone's path straight versus condemnation, where there's no room for grace and there is no direction to the positive destination, right? So, and again, I want to go back to my example of the church. I have heard this type of teaching. It's horrible. Where again, I've heard people say stuff like, again, I'm gonna go use the example. I know there's some of you in this seat right now, y'all, right? Or and I know you guys have heard this. Or someone would be like, and this is why you haven't reached your potential yet, because you right? And it's just this attack, and that may work for a particular audience, right? Because they're trained to only produce within trauma, but at some point, even you have to get out of your own trauma and stop teaching from a condemnational place where everything is judgment and there is no sense of edification or sense of restoration, right? And again, I want to make sure you're understanding me. I'm not saying that you cannot share truth. I did not say that. What I'm saying is that as you're correcting, you should be showing them what is possible, what God has for them, for their lives, right? And if it's not a spiritual teaching, I'm just focused on ministry, but even in a corporate setting, when I do trainings within the SBA and for entrepreneurs and different things like that, I will share, like, these are the things that you should not do. And the reasons why you shouldn't do them are because look at the great things that you can do if you do these things instead. Look at the possibilities when we focus on a better strategy, right? That's better than saying, here are the 10 things you should not do. And then people are always asking, well, then what are the things that I should do? Right? There's nothing wrong with sharing things you shouldn't do, but you have to also make sure you edify by sharing the things that they can do, that they will do, that they're capable to do, right? So it's very important that we speak from our focus being on the positive destination, right? So again, we correct, but we do not condemn. Okay. And this is where for some people, they have to cultivate their teaching gift, their speaking gift, their writing gift, because you have to work on that, right? That's not something you just transform. If you've been used to condemnational, like just always breaking people down, and you haven't exercised building people up, then that's something you have to practice, right? Where you're learning how to have a balance between correction and also to edify. And really, we should always be edifying at all times, okay? And I do have some scriptures that we're going to go to before we wrap this up. Number 3, we're almost done. This world needs builders. Okay, when you are speaking, writing, and teaching, okay, it is so important that you realize that you are a builder of people's lives. And I cannot stress this enough. People really underestimate platforms. People really underestimate the mic. People really underestimate just talking to people in a grocery store. People really underestimate, people who may reach out to you on social media or comment on your post or talk to you at your child's dance recital. We really underestimate the power of being connected with people and how important our voices are. Okay, I was at a rest area. Was it rest area? Was it Where was this? No, it wasn't rest area. It was Food Lion. This got a couple days ago. I don't know why I thought rest area, but Food Lion. And this woman had on this gorgeous dress. Right, it was just gorgeous, like sparkly. You guys know I love glam. When I'm not in my golf attire, I love glam. And I just love this dress. And she was walking around and I thought, I was like, she knows she's bad, right? She knows that she looks great in that dress. And on the way out, we were both walking out of the supermarket at the same time on this particular exit. And something just in me said, just say something to her about the dress. So I said, I just have to tell you that dress is gorgeous, right? And it's so funny what she said. She said, really? She said, I put this dress on. I thought it was so ugly. She said, I just put it on. I said, let me just grab something just to throw on and go to the grocery store. And I'm thinking in my head, if you throw that on to go to the grocery store, my God, right? But her whole demeanor transformed. I mean, this woman's demeanor, she walked out glowing. And then I had parked relatively close to her. So as she was going to her car, opened up the door. Her husband, whoever the man was in the car, I always assume my husband was an older woman. But she got in the car and I could hear her telling, and she was very loud. She was like, oh my gosh, this young lady told me that she loved my dress. I thought the dress was ugly. I could just hear the sound, become more muffled because she was closing the door. But it was those things that, again, were very, very helpful. Oh no, you're good. Yeah, but it's those things that were very, very, very helpful because that right there changed her demeanor. And again, that is just a basic example of complimenting someone. But imagine the next level of that, where you go from complimenting to now you're shifting into actually speaking into people's lives, right? You're encouraging people, you're building them up, right? So it's very important that when you are a builder, it's important, right? You're building what? You're building up. Right, you're building what? You're building a foundation. Let's apply some of these examples. Okay, so we're gonna talk about foundation again. Hope you guys enjoy this. We're gonna talk about foundation. We're gonna talk about going up. Okay, and I want you to really hear what I'm saying. Let's first talk about a foundation. When you build, you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation. Right? The Bible talks about in the New Testament. There was a parable where Jesus was talking about how those that built their house upon sand that was washed away, but those that built their house on a rock that is still when the storms and basically the test of life came. And of course, the rock we know is Jesus Christ. Of course, we know is standing on the word. And so these are also the great examples of how even in our giftings it works. Right. So let me show you as an example. Let's look at our three areas: speaking, writing, and teaching. Right now, again, there's a difference between speaking and teaching. Teaching is where there is an intended start and end. It's where there's usually major points or major aspects or subjects that must be not just exposed, where they're exposed to that information, but that they also achieve a certain level of success within understanding the information itself, right? That's where teaching and speaking are two different things, right? Now, you may teach a little bit within your speaking. Like if you have a keynote and you say, okay, well, I'm going to teach you guys three different things today, right? So there's ways that this all crosses. But I want to share with you how this applies to each one. Let's first start off with speaking. Speaking can be where, again, it's a keynote. You got booked to speak. You may be on a podcast somewhere. You may, where you have an opportunity to share your voice, okay? Now, it is very important that every great speaker have a foundation. Okay. And that foundation really represents first what you're built on, right? It is hard for you to build others when you yourself don't have a foundation. There are a lot of people doing that, right? And they don't know where they want to lead people. They don't know, right? But and let me just use this, what I just said his name, right? I just said they don't know, right? Now let me just show you how I'm going to shift them into the positive, right? So they may not know what they've been called to. They may not know what their focus is, but, right? But the hope of this to get to the end with you. Okay, let me remove this. So that's really important that you are building a foundation for them, right? So I've seen where I've been to certain keynotes where people will get on stage and they just end up talking about like 50 different random topics about their life. And it was almost like, okay, what was the point of these 45 minutes that this person just shared? What exactly are we doing here? Like what was that, right? What was that? Okay. It's important that you create a foundation for your listeners to have, okay, that you create a foundation for them. And within that foundation, this is where too, over time, your voice creates some sense of solidarity. When I first got started into teaching, I knew that God had called me to focus very strongly on faith, right? On faith, living by faith. And then within that, God began to really focus me, even niche me more down into the speaking and writing and teaching, and women teaching, speaking, writing, and teaching from authority, from a place of fire, passion, that was not based upon emotion, but based upon their calling, right? Not based upon their flesh, but based upon their spirit. And that requires a certain level of faith and confidence, right? And as I was beginning to get there, one of the things God told me was, He's like, Genesis, you have to remind people of what you've been called to do on a continuous basis. You have to create a clear foundation so that when you walk into a room and someone says, hey, I want to learn about how to really become more confident in my voice, people are like, oh my God, you should go follow Genesis, right? Like, she helps creators and entrepreneurs focus in that area, right? And so it became important that I had a solid foundation for people to follow. And then once they came on board, that I gave them a solid foundation for them to carry things on. That is important, okay? When people think of you, they should be thinking about your area of expertise, okay? You should have a clear foundation. So that is very important. Now let's talk about building people up, because this goes within, again, the world needs builders. So your job is to first, okay, make sure that you have a solid foundation on what you're standing on, right? What your beliefs are. I'm gonna add this before we get into up. But one of the things that I am big on when it comes to women and their voice is stop flip flapping. Okay, stop with the flip flap. Okay, if you stand on a certain principle or strategy, that's what you stand on. I've seen people flip flap on panels before where I'm like, now I know she does not believe in what they just said, right? But they didn't want to shake up the panel. But I'm notorious for shaking up panels, right? When I am paid to speak and you have me up on a stage, you are not paying me to agree with people. You are paying me for my belief, for my strategies, for the things that I stand on, for my area of expertise. And we all have different areas of expertise, but you have to stand on what you believe on. Like, there are people who allow culture, other coaches or other speakers or other authors or other creatives or other entrepreneurs, right, to change what they believe in, right? And that's the beauty of the world, is that we're all diverse in the strategies. And here's the funny thing: there's not one way when it comes to many areas of expertise. Like, there are different ways for people to win in different areas of expertise, right? And so not everyone is going to rock with just one person's strategy. There may be a strategy that God's giving you that works best for certain people that are within your influence of within your area of influence, right? So don't allow, this is so important, if you have a certain strategy you believe, whether it comes to social media, ministry, motherhood, right? Like, everyone has their different method, everyone has their different strategy, right? But as a speaker, as an author, right, when you speak or teach and you write, you represent your foundation, what you stand on, what your strategies are, right? So you never should allow people to influence you to change, okay, your strategy, right? If you have a 12-point strategy on how to build a real estate company, if you have a 12-point strategy on how to build a real estate, I don't know, landscaping, whatever, and that's your 12-point strategy, that's your 12-point strategy. And if someone comes in and says, well, I have a 5-point strategy, right? And then you say, well, I guess I don't need all those points. No, if that is your expertise, if that is your strategy, that is your strategy. And as a speaker, writer, or teacher, it is your job to represent whatever God gave you as your genius. And you never allow other people to, I'll put it like this, influence you for you not to represent what God gave you. God gave me a strategy on helping women in speaking, writing, and teaching, right? And we did it with Speak Women Speak. I cannot tell you how many other, experts out there, consultants, speakers, coaches, whatever their title is, that teach on helping women to emerge with their voice, right? Do you think that I'm going to transform or change my method to fit what is working out there? No, because here's my thing. If you try to change or flip flap every single time you see someone's new strategy out there, right? What's going to be your foundation? Because your foundation keeps on changing. You see someone else that says, well, I'm a marketing expert, and, I tell people they shouldn't post more than this times a day. And you've been teaching people to post a certain amount of times a day, and you have your strategy for it, and you say, well, I guess maybe I should change. No. Either you know what you know or you don't. And if you know what you know, if you are an expert at what you're doing, you have the proven results, then you stand by what you said. As I believe if someone said, I said what I said, right? This is important, having a foundation. Okay, now let's talk about building people up. This is so key. And again, I have some scriptures I'm going to give you before we hop off to just kind of give you just to meditate on. So let's go over our 3 points, and I'm gonna wrap it with this up point. Number one, you are to create a positive destination. When you build people up, speaking, writing, and teaching, right, whatever those areas are that fit your gifts, you are to bring people to a positive destination. Again, remember, no one wants to go backwards. So deconstructing people, breaking them down, but then never building them up makes you just someone who is just honestly, you are a wreck. You just create wrecks wherever you go. You break people down. You always judge them, always talking about them, but you never show them where they can go, who they can be, who God has called them to become. Again, I'm not just talking about ministry. This is any arena. If you have staff or a team, some people have high turnover rates because they don't know how to build people up. They're just always tearing them down. And again, remember, point number 2, there's a difference between correcting and condemning. Correcting is to redirect someone to their intended place. I'm going to say that one again. Correcting is redirecting someone to their intended place. When someone is out of line, you have to correct them, right? You have to put them back to where they should be. It does not mean that you are demeaning them. It does not mean that you are belittling them. You're just simply showing them where they've been called to be. Got it? You are correcting the situation. Now, with that, condemning is when I am tearing someone down without any intention to build them up. I'm correcting, but then I add on pettiness, I add on shade, I add on all these things that have nothing to do with it, right? And so now you're creating I'll put it like this: the opposite of leadership. You're creating the opposite of leadership. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. A lot of people want to lead, but they condemn to the point where people can't even be built up to support you. People can't be built up to help push the vision forward. I want you to think about this. If God has given you a vision and it's going to take people to bring it to pass, you better learn how to build people up, because you're going to need people to help you to fulfill whatever the vision. And I'm talking about leaders, right? Not everyone's called to lead, and we have to know what our capacity is. Okay, listen, you got to know your capacity, and it's okay to not have a certain capacity. But tell you right now, it doesn't make you less than at all. Just make sure that's just not your lane, right? But when you have a vision that requires people, you have to build people not just to one level, but to continuous levels, because as humans, we are imperfect. We are messy. We are, oh my God, we get petty. Listen, we get shit. Listen, come on now, we're human, okay? We have flesh. We're not all Jesus, or whatever your faith. Listen, we get and as leaders, we have to deal with the mess. I love this quote that someone said. They said, ministry, every time of ministry, they said, ministry is messy, so get a mop and clean it up. Right? It's all messy. But you have to learn how to go with the ebbs and flows, and you'll never be perfect. You're never going to get every decision right. You're not. But if you learn how to remind yourself that I am building people up, right? Even when I have to correct them, I'm still building. There's actually a way to correct people and still build them up at the same time. Never forget where my mother gave me my first job, my first opportunity. I had to fire somebody, right? And she said, well, Genesis, I'm allowed this to be a teaching lesson for you. So, you're going to be in charge of letting this person go, right? And never forget this, right? Because it wasn't traumatic for me, but it was a learning experience, because I was someone I didn't like confrontation. I really still don't. But, I learned you got to just do what you got to do. And when I got on the phone with the young lady, one of the things that was really important for me was that was to make sure that I was directing her to a positive destination, right? Because when you get fired, that's not a great call, right? But there was a reason why she was getting fired. She was a young girl, and I wanted to encourage her on her potential, right? I gave her some insights. Now, this is important. You are not responsible for people's responses. You're responsible to love people, respect them, okay, and to point them to a positive destination. Some of you are trying to be responsible for people's responses to your leadership, and this could be in your home with your kids. This could be where you have people who work under you who don't want to respect. This applies to a lot of things, right? But I knew that all I was responsible for was to, again, point her to a positive direction. So I told her, I said, and I point out the things of why we had gotten to this point, which she had already knew. But I let her know. I said, listen, you're young. I said, you have a lot in front of you. You have a lot of time in front of you. So you have a lot of opportunities in front of you. I said, I want to give you some. I said, if you would allow me to, I said, I would like to give you some insight on how wherever you go next, because she couldn't come back here. Some things that say happen. Like, you can't come back here. And I didn't say it like that. I said, but I want that wherever you go next, I want to give you some strategies so that you can excel in your next position. Right? Now, if she responded and said, well, I don't want to hear anything you got to say to I would be like, well, thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you for your time that you spent here. And I wish you the best. And I want to hang up the phone. Right? Because again, I'm not responsible to manage people's responses. Okay? What I did, though, is that she was open. And so from there, I was able to then move from speaking then to teaching. Now I was able to really spend some time with her and exhort her and build her up. And that was great for me. Now, again, you can't do that to everybody, because not everybody's in a place to listen when they get fired. But for people who have a heart to listen, right, that gives an opportunity. And so that, to me, was a great experience for me of building people up, right? It was not a positive situation, but it was where I had an opportunity to become a builder, or I could have become become a destructor, right? I want you to think about that. Okay, we're almost done. We're 12:32. We're almost done. So again, I want to give you some scriptures to think on, okay, when it comes to building people up. I actually want you to practice this. The best way as a leader when it comes to speaking, writing, and teaching, okay, to my women and my ladies, you have to practice it. Okay, so a perfect example is, the next time you do a live, I want you to look at your notes and make sure you do a condemnation check. Okay, let's make sure you're not spending all this time condemning people. Okay, where are you building them up? Okay, when you go on a live, and when you have your next speaking opportunity, next time you have a mic, or the next time you speak in front of your team or your staff, or the next time you speak in front of your kids, right? Maybe for some of you, that your group that you're building up is your community, your family, right? Whenever you have the next opportunity, maybe it's an individual, maybe it's not a group of people, maybe it's an individual that you're mentoring or building up, right? I want you to first of all set the positive destination. Right. So whenever you are at the beginning of something, you always let people know what they're about to experience, right? What you want to talk about, right? And then from there, then you want to make sure you're correcting but not condemning. Right, make sure you're correct. Today's live was a perfect example of that, right? We touched on some things that you should not do, but at the end of the day, whoa, that light's flickering. That's so weird. At the end of the day, the light must have felt the Holy Spirit. At the end of the day, you have to focus, right, on building people up. Right. And so it's going to be very important that you have that, again, correcting but not condemning. OK, then number three, you got to realize that the world needs builders. We live in a world that has a culture of destruction and deception. OK, I don't care how pretty it looks, how pretty it glitters. This world is filled with nothing but deception and destruction. Point blank, period. People are very deceived in today's world, where they are caught up by the lust of this world in every area of life. And there are women that have been assigned, and men, to speak truth. When I say speak truth, I mean in every arena, right? A lot of times we think speak truth is just for activism and justice and all these different areas. No. Because actually, one of the first areas in which many of you have been called, but you refused to understand it, is family. There are a group of women, and I've been talking about this for a while, but there are women that are called to build families. Like literally their gifting is to teach other women and men how to build stronger families, because a lot of the problems that we're seeing today are because of a lack of family unity. And let me tell you this, whenever you see problems in this world, God has already mandated people to solve it. There is not one problem in this world where God has not already anointed and assigned somebody to solve that problem. Come on now, right? And it could be in the arena of finance. It could be in the arena of real estate. It could be in the arena of health or medicine. It could be in the arena of education. It could be in the arena of hospitality. It could be in the arena of ministry. It could be in the arena of family and childhood. It could be in the arena of trauma and therapy and mental health, right? It could be in the arena of self-care. Every area in life, right? Leadership, right? Building up brain development, right? When it comes to early childhood education, right? All these different arenas, right? There is not one problem that God has not already assigned a solution to. Not one. He would not be God if he saw things and there was not already a solution. God has already presented the solution. The solution is you. Right? And this is why you have to continue to build up your confidence and your passion, your fire to attack these problems that you see in the world. Whether, again, and whatever your area and gift of expertise is, that's where the solution is. It's within your, and here's the thing, it first starts with your voice. That's where the first area it starts off with, is with your voice. This is why I'm so passionate when it comes to women. And I have a male audience as well that draws from this because it applies to them as well. But this is why your voice is so important. Your voice is more valuable than what you think. And maybe people have told you that it is not as valuable, but it is extremely valuable, so much so that many times the first area in which our self-esteem, our low self-esteem comes to rob us of is our voice. Is our voice. Because in our area of conversation, even to ourselves, if we even stop speaking to ourselves confidence, if we even stop speaking to ourselves truth and our ability to do something, we won't do it. Because again, whatever you speak, whatever you believe in your heart, that is what will happen. It's not what we say in just in air, but it's what we actually believe in our hearts, right? What we actually have received as truth for ourselves. So this is why, as we end, I want to give you these scriptures because again, I'm a Jesus girl. I believe in the word. But these scriptures help us to understand that we are builders, that wherever area of expertise that you are in, you must see your voice as extremely valuable. God has called your voice to an arena of expertise. He's called your voice to bring truth to the darkness in the world. And again, we know this because we look at the book of Genesis, right? I use this as an example every single time. You guys know this. But in Genesis 1, the Bible says that the earth was without any substance. It was void. It was nothing but darkness. And the Bible says, and God, he said, he spoke. Right? He didn't daydream about it. He wasn't like, well, I guess, the Bible says, and he said, and he spoke. So this means that whatever darkness, whatever void that you see in the world that you've been called to solve, right? That your voice has been called to solve, whether it's through speaking, writing, or teaching, okay? It's your job to speak. Point blank. I don't care what you tell me as an excuse. It is your job to speak. And even if you're already speaking, it's time to take it to the next level. For some of you, you've already been speaking. This is not even a new course for you. It's not a new path for you, but it's the fact that God has called you to another level of influence and impact, and you must show up in the way that he's called you to show up. Let me tell you this, showing up, okay, half-heartedly, when you know God's called you to go full throttle, you're only hurting your own destiny. You're not hurting God. You're not hurting other people. You're hurting your own destiny. Because as we know, if you don't do it, God will find somebody else. We are not anything without God. It is God that gives us our purpose. It's God that gives us our destiny. It's our relationship with God that gives us our confidence. And if we don't want to do what God has called us to do, God will find somebody else. But why would you do that? Listen, I'm going to tell you something, and it's something I couldn't say as a child, but don't be stupid. Okay? Don't be stupid. Okay, don't do it to yourself. Because I know that you are intelligent. I know that you will make a life decision. I know that you will make a life choice. You are not a person that would allow God to use everybody else but not use yourself. You are not that kind of person, right? At least not anymore, where you allow people to use you from top to bottom, anything, any request, any volunteering, any service, right? You showed up. But listen, when God calls you, I know that the next time that you hear his voice to do something, I know that you're going to do it. I know that you're going to obey. Yes, it's not going to be always easy. Yes, your flesh is going to fight like a toddler, kicking and screaming. But the more and more that we obey God, the easier we flow with him and his voice. Let me give you these scriptures, okay? Let's look at Ephesians 4:29. It says this, Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. May give grace. This is good. I want you to realize this, right? Okay, this is such the love of God, right? When you speak and build people up, it gives them grace. Now, you may think, okay, what do you mean by that, right? The grace of God is not for us to abuse his love. The grace of God allows us to redirect, to correct ourselves, and get back to the place in which he's called us to be. It's the grace of God, right? That fills up my imperfections and that shows me that God's love outweighs all of my mistakes. And because of that, I can get back in fellowship with him and continue my walk. Remember, grace does not abuse his love. That's not how grace works, right? What grace does is gives me the opportunity within even all of my mistakes to still get up again and walk out the right way. Well, this applies to your area of expertise, to your voice. Because as you speak, and this is important in you building people up, you're giving them the opportunity to get to where God has called them to be, to obtain the right results. You could be a consultant. And as you teach, your ability within your voice helps people to understand that, yes, as a company, we may have made some mistakes. We weren't doing everything that we should have done. Maybe we were using wrong strategies. But this person who's teaching us is showing us ways to get back on track. Maybe you're someone who's been called to speak into the lives of mothers, newborn moms, right? And maybe these moms, they came on the platform, maybe they came on your platform and they didn't know everything, right? But through your teachings, you give them grace, right? Think about this. This is so powerful. I want you really to get this, right? When God has anointed you to speak, write, and teach, right? And for you to operate in your gift of expertise, okay? God gives you strategies and insights that allow people to win in life. In whatever arena it is and whatever winning looks like, he gives you these strategies to give to people so that they can get to an intended and positive destination, right? So I want you to think about this. As you're teaching, you're giving people technically, and it's a natural version of it, but it's revelation. It's insight on what was missing in the picture, right? Think about this. When someone is ignorant and does not have knowledge, they're missing something. Ignorant is not really, well, we use it as a connotational word, but technically it just means that you lack knowledge. So if someone steps into your life and is speaking, writing, or teaching, or giving, again, their area of expertise, they allow you to see what's missing because their teaching brings clarity. Their insight brings such a straight way of seeing things. That's how you know when someone's really been called, because when they've been called, they don't bring confusion, they bring clarity. And here's my thing. I know that because of your area of expertise, that when you speak, that your voice brings clarity. People who have been in industries for, it doesn't matter how long they've been in the industry, for years, but for some reason, when you get up and teach on a particular topic, doesn't matter how long they've been in the industry, they're like, oh my gosh, I did not see it that way. I didn't even see it that way. Maybe been doing hair for 30 years, and your insight on building a salon or doing hair, you're just few hours with them, or maybe a couple, whatever the extent is, you bring such clarity. And that clarity brings them grace. Because here's what grace does. Again, going back to Ephesians 4:29, as you speak and build up, it brings grace. It brings him the grace to do what? To say, you know what? The clarity they just gave me, I now have hope to do what? To get back on track, to get to where I'm supposed to be. This is why when you speak, we correct, but we don't condemn, because the moment you start condemning, the grace comes out of it. It no longer is grace. There's no longer any space for them to get back to where they should be or to move on to their next level, right? So it's these kind of things that I hope are encouraging you to see that your voice matters. Right? If you wrote that book, you better keep on promoting that book. You better keep on promoting your next books. If you are teaching people, you better keep on sharing how you're teaching people and bringing more people in so that more people can get that clarity. If you are a speaker, man, you better be out there promoting yourself as a speaker so that more and more people are getting clarity. This is why, as people who have been gifted with this clarity, we cannot allow other people out here who have nothing but noise. Listen, noise. A lot of people say that things are saturated. No. Many things are not saturated with clarity. Most things are saturated with noise, right? But we call it saturated because saturated just means that basically the space has been filled, right? But once you understand that most of the space has been filled with noise, then you understand that it doesn't matter how saturated the market is. It doesn't matter how saturated the industry is. It doesn't matter how crazy, how many accounts you saw that do the same thing that you do. At the end of the day, clarity wins. Now, it may not win as fast as noise does. Okay? Because many times, especially in this world, because people are deceived, noise rides on hype. Okay? But this is where you have to trust God's plan for your gift. You got to trust God's plan for your expertise. And you have to know that if I go the way that God has called me to go, then it will help me to stay on a track that will always be blessed. It may not be perfect. I'm still gonna face storms, tests, and trials because I'm living in this world, a natural world with natural people, and I am myself natural, and I am myself not perfect, okay? But I will know that I'm always protected, because here's the thing. When I am under the shadow of God's grace and I am doing what he's called me to do because my steps are ordered according to the Old Testament, then I know that no matter where I walk, as long as I'm walking where God told me to walk, I'll be okay. And that's where you have to have confidence in your gifting and your expertise. That's where you have to know and you have to speak to your own gift. Some of you have to speak to your gift. You speak to people, but when was the last time you spoke to your gift? When was the last time you built yourself up? When was the last time? I know, again, and this is where I want to end with this, is because we talked about today building people up. But I want to end, and let me give you these other scriptures. Ephesians 4:29, Proverbs 27:17. Hebrews 10:24 through 25, First Thessalonians 5 and 11, and then First Timothy 4 and 12. Those are scriptures that you can meditate on, okay? But I want to end with this as we come to a close. We got 13 minutes left for this week's teaching. Thank you guys for those of you who are watching live, and thank you for those who are watching the replay. Listen, when in Joshua 1, I always say that if you are a leader that is in the midst of kind of doubting your gift, your calling, doubting a transition in your life where God is pushing you into another direction or pushing you to your next period, right? So where you spent time maybe mastering a certain thing, and now God's like, okay, here's what's next, right? And you're kind of you're lacking confidence, because it happens to all of us at every single level, right? Do I have a call?
Mr. Roberts.
Oh, okay, I'll give him a call a little bit later. But even with that, within your calling, you have to speak to your abilities. Okay, you have to speak to your abilities. I have been a person where I was so focused on speaking the lives of other people, speaking to other people, that even within my prayer life, I still had to add components where I'm building myself up. And so here's what that looks like. I recommend that you write a confession for your gift, right? And if you, and according to your expertise too. Like, I want it to be very specific. So I'll give you a perfect example. Someone give me someone give me something that you do, because I don't want to use myself, because I think that'll be too easy. I want to show you how easy it is to use it as an example. So you can even share what you do if you want to share, but give me like a title or something that you would do, and I'm going to show you how to turn into a confession. This is good. Okay. And what I'm going to show you is, depending upon area. Okay, goal strategist coach. Okay, that's very specific. I may need something a little, but we're gonna go with that. Okay, I'm gonna use it. Okay, wellness community for incarcerated. Okay, so we're gonna use these two. Okay, so if you contribute more, I can't do it. Okay, we got 11 minutes left. So we're gonna do the goal strategist coach, and we're gonna do the wellness community for incarcerated families. Okay, so let's start with goal strategist coach, right? You help women. Okay, cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to build a confession that is specific to that area of expertise, right? Now, again, I do not know your guys' specific areas of expertise, because again, it's not my area of expertise. But what you're going to do is you're going to take what your main focuses are. What do you help people to do within expertise, right? So you said I help women to strategize their goals. But then we want to know what's the end result of that. So once they strategize their goals, what does their life look like? Right? Because again, remember, we have an end destination. So that's what you do, but where are you taking people, right? What I do should have an end result, right? What I do should have an end result. Okay? And many times we confuse our gifts with just what we do. But the anointing is not just in what you do, it's in the results that it gives. It's in the place in which people are delivered to. Right? They're going to somewhere, right? Deliverance is not just an experience, but it gives people a new place to be. I want you to hear me that, right? It's a new way of living. It's a new thing about this. When we have come to Christ, right? We got delivered, but we didn't get delivered. We got delivered from something to go what? To go somewhere else, right? So I'm no longer staying in the same place. Got it? So when you write these confessions, I want you to write, and hopefully I'm saying it right, Janae, and if I did not get that right, Jeanette, if I did not get that right, I'm butchering your name. I apologize. I want you to write a confession that says, Dear Heavenly Father, right? I thank you that I am your goal, that I am called by you to be an amazing goal strategist coach. I thank you that every woman that comes into my presence will not only strategize their goals, but that they will experience X, Y, and Z. I thank you that you're drawing women from the north, the east, the south, and the west who will be touched by my giftings. I thank you that you're anointing my voice, right? And then you outline what are the ways in which God has called you to expand your voice. Is it speaking, writing, and teaching? Is it just writing? Is it teaching? Which way is it, right? And then I want you to also include the next level opportunities in which he's called you to, but you have not seen yet. I need to pray about what I know is coming. I don't wait and see. you don't wait until it happens, because it won't happen if you're not praying for it in advance, right? So I have to pray in advance of what I am expecting God to do and what I know He's attached to my gifts. I'm not just calling things out of thin air, but I'm going to pray about what I know my area of expertise is attached to, that I'm gonna pull in. Right, I'm gonna pull in, right, through the prayer of faith. I'm pulling that thing in. So if He's giving you any dreams or desires, that's what you're gonna pray for. Got it? And you want to build it into a confession. And you speak that confession every day. And I'm going to tell you this, if you can't confess about your own giftings on your life that God's called you to help transform the world, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, at this point, you may have to just be laid down by an old prayer warrior that's like 85, 98 or something, and just get laid out in prayer, you know. But if you can do that and you can repeat that to yourself, that's going to help build up your confidence before you get on the phone, before you write the email, before you do your proposals, before you go out there and market yourself, before you even talk about this. Because when we talk about areas of expertise in the natural world, the marketplace, right, we have to realize that there's a spiritual realm, on your gift. You are not ordinary. I know my teaching not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. But what I know is that I'm for a group of people, and I'm going to show up for that group of people. Got it? Okay, let's go to our next example. We're almost done. We got 7 minutes on the clock. Chrissy says, wellness community for incarcerated families. Okay, so here's how I would construct it as a confession. Right? Now within this, because it is a building, wellness community. So I'm assuming is this a building? Is it a physical building, or is this going to be like an online platform? Or give me a specific with that, because I want to use an example. If there's a specific building, I want to share with you an example. If not, let me know. Because if there's a building. And this is for anybody with a brick and mortar where God, not you just want a building, because a building can be an online platform. Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, if it is a building, and God has called you to obtain a building, because a building can also be a burden if it was not what you're supposed to get. But if God's called you to literally have a building, it is very important that you have already began searching out examples of what that building looks like. Okay, and that you are connecting yourself with the people, whether it's commercial real estate people, real estate developers, so that you are understanding the level of responsibility to that building. Because there's also, I'm telling you, there is something attached to buildings when it comes to your spiritual connection. What I mean by that is, when God gives you a physical place, it's just like an online place. And I'm about to show this for Chrissy as an example, because it represents a place of peace for people, a place that will represent a place of light for people. And so it's very important that you start moving on that. It doesn't mean that you're going to buy it yet, but you want to start moving your feet, okay? So that you're not just waiting for a building to drop in your lap. Okay, we don't wait for buildings to drop in our laps. We ask God on what His plan and purpose is for a building, and we start moving accordingly, okay? But you don't wait for someone to just give you a key to a building, right? You better start praying, better start meeting people, having conversations, okay? Now, this is where Chrissy says that God's called her to build an online platform. Now, let me use this example for everybody. For those of you who believe that social media is just a platform, then you have missed the impact of your gift. Because you think it's just social media. This is why for some of you treat your social media like trash. Because God's called you to it, but you treat it like, it's a social media, it's social. It's just the internet, Well, if this is just the internet, well, my God, because what God did in my life was that He used an online platform to completely change my life, to where He had called me to the online space. And it created an amazing way for me to build community for women who were not located near me. Okay? And it allowed me to pour into women all around the world. We have the Zoom coming up this Thursday that you can register for, that's free, the accountability call. And I get to connect with other women and pour into them as they pour into me, right? Even though I'm leading, they're pouring back as well for that amazing touch, right? And we've seen the transformation of what platforms can do. So what you're going to begin to pray for, I'm going to give you a confession to fit that. Again, an online platform and writing a book, okay? So you said that is for a wellness community for incarcerated families. Number one, you would say, Dear Heavenly Father, and then I want you to say, Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you in this effort this mission to build this wellness community for incarcerated families. God, I pray right now that you would help me and give me the wisdom. Matter of fact, I forgot to say that for Janae. Always pray for wisdom. I missed that. Always pray for wisdom. Because many times what we're missing is not a people problem. It may not be a money problem. Many times it's a wisdom problem. As my father Jesus so well and got in my brain. Pray for wisdom. God, give me the wisdom to build this wellness community for incarcerated families. God, give me the right connections and partnerships and sponsorships. God, bring in the right people. If it's a nonprofit, if it's a for-profit, you want to pray whatever that path is. God, if it's a non, God, bring me the donors. God, give me the strategy to build up a donor program. If it's a for-profit, God, give me the insight to build up revenue for this company. Right? God, give me the insight and the marketing strategies to draw in these families that would need these resources. God, give me wisdom to create the resources. God, bring people within this community that will be drawn and transformed by it. And then, of course, you need to outline that when they become a part of this wellness community, how will their lives be transformed? That's what you need to pray for. I do not just expect transformation. I pray for it. I pray for it. I'm not going to just wait for that. So, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the transformation. I thank you that people's lives will be transformed and changed. I thank you that they will experience freedom in these types of families where they have been broken apart and right? You want to outline it all. You want to outline it all, right? And then you get a nice little paragraph, and then that's what you pray every day. Right? And this is what it's going to do as we come. We got 2 minutes left and I'm about to end here. This is what, again, as we cover today, this is how you build people up. Because when you build yourself up as a leader for the vision that God has given you, it helps you to build people up because now you have been built up. Okay? So what does this do for us? Number one, it helps us to have a positive destination, right? Now we just outlined all the 3 things that it does for others when we speak, write, and teach. But in what I just gave, as I flip the script today, I'm going to show you what I just shared, how it's going to build you up as a leader. It's going to give you a positive destination. When you confess the word and you have a confession built upon what you're doing in this world to transform people's lives and the place in which you're taking them to, it's going to give you a positive outlook on what you're doing. This will help so that when people come to talk to you about your vision and they give you negative insight, negative experiences, it won't affect you. It won't influence you to stop the calling, but you're going to say, you know what? I know you said it wasn't going to work, but I just begin to think about all the days I said it was going to work. Let me get back to work, right? Number 2, it's going to help you to correct your own path, but not condemn yourself. When you're building the vision that God has given you, and again, as you're building other people up, it can become easy to get discouraged. It can become easy to think that, you're not doing everything right, and you may not. But I want you to correct yourself, but don't condemn yourself. And then number 3, you got to realize, as we said, the world needs you. Right? The world needs builders. But guess what? You need yourself. Listen, don't allow yourself to become wasted, okay? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. You cannot love your neighbor if you don't first love yourself. Guys, it is 1 o'clock. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm about to hop on a call. Listen, here's what I want you to do. Ladies. This Thursday, June the 30th, is our accountability call at 8 p.m. Okay, it's for the ladies. I know, guys, listen, we have things coming up for y'all too. And if you want to join the call, you can. We've had guys come on in previous Zooms, but it's this Thursday, 8 p.m. Here's how you can access it completely for free. You're going to go to genesisdorsey.com. Link is in my bio, or it's here with the description. Scroll down to the very bottom of the homepage, and you're going to see our accountability call for June. Completely free. It's for an hour, 1 hour. What we're going to do is we're going to share what we focused on for the last 30 days, okay, for June. If you're brand new to the call, you're going to simply share what you're going to focus on for July, okay? And what we're focusing on is accomplishing things in a small amount of time, right? So in other words, instead of focusing on the large goals, what are the things you need to get done in the next 30 days? Okay, we're talking about all these 15 goals. Listen, what do you need to get done? What's one thing you need to do in 30 days, okay, that God's called you to do? And so we're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to teach for about 30 minutes. It's going to be a teaching that's going to help you focus for the next 30 days. It helps you to keep accountable, helps you to keep that accountability. And we meet once a month, so this is not demanding. You're going to meet these wonderful ladies and some gents once a month. That's it. Not a huge committal. And we meet the last day of every month. Okay, we meet the last day of every month, so you can already block it out in your schedule. And then we put out the Zoom online and different things like that. Guys, have a blessed rest of your day. Okay, I love you guys so much. I'm gonna leave the replays up so if you want to watch them, you will have access to them. Okay, but guys, I love you so much. Be blessed. See you guys later. Bye, guys. See you later.